under the shadow of towering legal documents and whispered rumors finally brought to the surface. The case against Sean Diddy, Combs entered a phase that even seasoned analysts compared to Epstein's downfall only magnified, from royal entanglements to Grammy winners. The names exposed in court filings were not just familiar, they were untouchable. Until now, accusations swirled like smoke around Diddy's empire, threatening not just his legacy but the reputations of those who stood beside him, partied with him, or remained silent as the doors closed and the cameras rolled. Homeland Security didn't descend on his homes in Los Angeles and Miami on a whim. Former prosecutor Melba Pearson was clear this was about evidence, specifically videos, footage that Diddy, according to multiple accusers including Cassie, Ventura, and Lil Rod, was obsessive about filming. Abuse, coercion, sex acts orchestrated for his gratification, caught in pixels and locked away. Authorities weren't just searching for clues, they were assembling a blueprint, a timeline, an ecosystem of exploitation disguised in luxury. Cassie, the singer who once stood next to him on red carpets, painted a harrowing portrait of control, manipulation, and violence. Her allegations, backed by a lawsuit filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, described being trafficked, raped, beaten, and filmed against her will. It was more than abuse, it was a system. That lawsuit was settled swiftly, almost suspiciously fast, but it was the first crack in a dam about to burst. Others followed. Joy Dickerson, Neal, alleging she was drugged and assaulted in 1991. Lil Rod, a music producer and former associate, who delivered a 73-page detonation packed with claims that Diddy not only assaulted him but forced him to hire prostitutes and perform sex acts. Lil Rod didn't just name Diddy, he named others, dragging Hollywood into the storm. One name stood out: Cuba Gooding Jr., allegedly groomed by Diddy to be passed around. Lil Rod recounted an encounter aboard Diddy's yacht where Gooding Jr. groped him in a disturbing and public fashion. The photos included in the documents showed them arm in arm, grinning, but the court filing described a different scene: hands where they shouldn't be, rejection ignored, until force was used to make it stop. Given Cuba Gooding Jr. single quotes as previous charges of sexual abuse and forcible touching allegations that were quietly settled or dismissed, this new claim wasn't easily brushed aside. As Pearson noted, the pattern was too clear, the proximity too damning. He could face more than fallout this time. Statutes of limitation might block a criminal trial, but the court of public opinion rarely waits for indictments. Lil Rod's legal firestorm also swept up Jennifer Lopez. Her connection dated back to 1999, before Ben Affleck and movie mogul status, when she was known as Jenny from the Block, often seen on the hip-hop circuit and dating Diddy during a nightclub shooting in New York City. Lil Rod's documents allege JLo personally carried the illegal firearm into the club that night, a weapon allegedly used during the shootout that wounded multiple people. At the time, rapper Shine was convicted, serving a decade behind bars, with whispers that he took the fall for Diddy. Now, Lil Rod says it was JLo who smuggled the gun. Whether she faced charges is another matter entirely. Statutes of limitations are likely expired. No one died that night, and Pearson clarified that without a death involved, criminal liability is slim. But reputational damage, that's a storm no PR team can completely contain. Today, J.Lo markets herself, definitely a mother, a mogul, a wife to Ben Affleck. But the past has a way of resurfacing. Photos, videos, eyewitness accounts. If Lil Rod's claims have receipts, she could find herself more deeply entangled than anyone predicted. Even so, defamation suits may be unlikely. Truth, in court, is an absolute defense. And if Lil Rod can prove JLo's involvement, even in a minor capacity, the damage is done. But perhaps most shocking of all, the filings name royalty: Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. No crimes were attributed to him, but his name appears as an attendee at Diddy's infamous sex parties. Used to, according to Lil Rod, to show how Combs insulated his trafficking operations behind layers of power, fame, and legitimacy. Pearson compared the mention to President Bill Clinton's association with Epstein, not illegal in itself, but deeply damaging. Prince Harry's team hasn't issued a statement. As Pearson noted, Buckingham Palace won't speak for him. If there's damage control to be done, it must come from him directly. Given the public scrutiny Harry and Meghan already face, the mere mention in a trafficking case could be explosive, even without charges. The documents then took an even darker turn. Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram, was compared to Ghislaine Maxwell, described as a handler, a fixer, a procurer of sex workers and drugs, orchestrating logistics for the parties that Lil Rod described in stomach-turning detail. Her role allegedly spanned from supplying ecstasy and GHB to managing cleanup operations, paying off silence, and arranging travel for victims. As Pearson made clear, no man of Diddy's power operates alone. Epstein had Maxwell, Weinstein had fixers, R. Kelly had handlers. These operations function like criminal enterprises, and those involved are rarely innocent bystanders. Coram, if these allegations hold, may face charges just as serious as her employer. Yet, despite mounting evidence in multiple lawsuits, Diddy remains uncharged. No indictment, no arrest. But Pearson, drawing on her years of experience as a prosecutor, was unequivocal. The feds move slowly because they move surgically. When the indictment is filed, the clock starts. That's why cases like this, banning states, decades, and layers of celebrity require time. Witnesses must be secured, evidence verified, timelines built. When the government moves, it won't be with speculation, it will be with certainty. Still, pressure builds. If federal charges do land, the consequences could be catastrophic. Pearson laid out the range. If prosecutors bring multiple counts tied to multiple victims, and if convictions are secured on consecutive charges, Diddy could be facing life in prison. Not figuratively, literally. Could he walk away clean? Pearson doesn't see it. Not with Cassie's testimony. Not with Lil Rod's filing. Not with the documents, the photos, the patterns. He may delay justice, but he won't escape it. In response, Diddy's legal team issued firm denials. His attorney called the lawsuit fiction, dismissed the name-dropping as a grab for headlines, and claimed to possess indisputable evidence, disproving every allegation. His son, Justin Combs, also named in the lawsuit, issued a separate statement, labeling the claims absurd, promising defamation lawsuits in response. Cuba Gooding Jr. has remained silent. So has Jennifer Lopez. So has Prince Harry. But silence in the face of this storm may not be sustainable, if even a fraction of Lil Rod's claims are verified. We're looking at a case that could rival Epstein's, not just in scope, but an impact one that forces Hollywood, music, and royalty to reckon with the darkness they allowed to grow in plain sight. As of now, Diddy is still a free man. But according to those closest to the investigation, it's only a matter of time. The camera pans over a crowded courtroom, heavy with anticipation. Prosecutors sit calmly, eyes fixed on the screens where the latest exhibits are cued, while Diddy's legal team exchanges hurried glances. Every whisper now feels like a confession. Outside, the hum of reporters and flashes from smartphones leak into the courthouse through the tall glass doors. Each shutter click a reminder that no moment here remains private. Diddy himself sits forward, fingers intertwined, jaw clenched, bracing for the next blow. Then, as though on cue, the prosecutor advances and places a sealed folder on the desk inside, a trove of unopened evidence that could redefine everything already said. The judge leans in, voice steady and chillingly impartial. This court acknowledges receipt. Defense counsel, do you wish to review? Diddy's attorney stands slowly, voice tight, requesting a sidebar, every second, a lifeline, every word. Strategize, the tension is crackling, thick enough to taste. In that charged pause, the gallery collectively inhales, fully aware that what comes next won't just affect courtroom outcomes, it will ripple outward, shattering narratives, careers, alliances. This isn't just a trial anymore. It's an unguarded moment unfolding live documentary style, in real time, where the next reveal could overturn power structures rooted in fame, fortune, and influence, and where the quietest filing might carry more weight than the loudest headline. In the hush that follows, the camera narrows its focus to that sealed folder. The courtroom seems to shrink around it. Every soul inside is tethered to the next moment, as if time itself has paused. The judge's question hangs in midair. Defense counsel, do you wish to review? Diddy's lead attorney rises with measured steps, voice quiet but firm. Your Honor, we request the opportunity to confer with our client before proceeding. It isn't a tactic, it's a lifeline. He nods once, already calculating the ramifications of whatever lies within the folder. The judge exhales a faint sigh that signals opportunity, but also gravity. Counsel, you will have 5 minutes. Please begin now. Defense counsel retreats to the bench alongside Diddy. Behind them, murmurs ripple through the gallery, journalists repositioning, witnesses leaning forward, jurors exchanging worried glances. The jury's role is passive, but the air hums with collective anxiety. Is this the tipping point? At the bench, between them and the judge, the folder cracks open. A single sheet slides free and is handed to the attorney, who scans it in seconds, face unchanging, eyes flicking to the judge, then back to Diddy, then to the page again. Inside, the folder contains metadata from another damning internal drive, timestamps, device IDs traced to Diddy's own legal counsel, implicating not just silence but conspiracy. The graveness of it sinks in. Defense counsel flicks his gaze to Diddy, whose posture mirrors a man who's just glimpsed his own reflection and doesn't like what he sees. The silence returns a charged, suspended moment that feels like every heartbeat slows. Then the judge's voice cuts through it. Please submit it as Exhibit X99 and place the device and its contents under seal. The clerk moves forward and the folder crosses the threshold of official evidence. Phones flash, reporters scribble, even the gavel sounds muted. Diddy exhales, a rasp that seems to shake more than his body. It shakes the room. His attorney places a steadying hand on his shoulder. only to find a trembling grip. The gravity of what's happened is undeniable, etched on every face. This is no longer a trial about what happened in private. It's an unanticipated collapse unfolding in real time under the roof of justice. As the folder is officially logged, the courtroom holds its breath again. The pause stretches long enough to recognize that the power dynamics have irrevocably shifted. Whether this exhibit will break open the case or simply be contained remains to be seen. But one fact is clear to everyone present: no walls are thick enough to muffle what justice has chosen to reveal. The room is silent, a vacuum filled only by the ticking of invisible seconds. Diddy leans back, eyes fixed somewhere beyond the courtroom's edges. His once impenetrable armor seems to have cracked in one measured moment. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple, not from fear, but from the weight of realization settling in. Across the aisle, the prosecution exchanges glances steely poised. They've sensed the ripple in the fabric of Diddy's defense, an unplanned warp in the narrative. Their laptops rest open, fingers poised one potential motion away from calling up yet another devastating exhibit. Defense counsel closes the folder, transferring its weight back to the clerk. Every movement is deliberate. Each shuffle of papers sounds louder than any outburst could have. The proceedings then resume, not with a roar, but with measured, chilling calm. Counsel. The judge intones voice flat. Proceed. The prosecution stands. They begin outlining their next request: court permission to analyze the drive in a secured lab, expand the injunctions on record tampering, and consider whether new charges should be filed for evidence suppression. Meanwhile, the gallery freezes. The actors in this real-time drama, family members, journalists, onlookers, all sense that the narrative has shifted. Not just the case, but the man. Diddy stays silent, expression impassive. Yet his stillness speaks volumes. By staying silent, he's allowing the record to fill in the blanks. The courtroom's quiet is no longer passive, it's intentional, almost reverent, as if each participant is holding their breath to see what comes next. And in that stillness lies the new reality. This moment wasn't scripted, not by Diddy, not by his defense, and not by anyone in this courtroom. The walls have spoken. Hush grows heavier as the prosecutor continues, voice measured but unwavering. Paperwork is slid across the bench, requests to trace data origins, freeze associated accounts, and bring in forensic specialists. Judge's gaze narrows. The request is granted without hesitation. At the defense table, one attorney softly whispers to another, a mix of urgency and fatigue in their voices. They exchange glances with Diddy, his composure intact, but the tension now palpable. His jaw clenches, nostrils flaring imperceptibly, as if each breath is a calculus of defense strategy. From the gallery, cameras flash silently. Reporters lean forward, capturing every nuance. The judge's gavel taps once firm. Final. We are adjourned until tomorrow morning. Prepare exhibit logs and forensic reports by then. Diddy rises, moving toward the exit with slow precision. His footsteps echo in the hushed corridor outside, a lone figure, navigating a labyrinth of scrutiny. No entourage noise, just the man, stripped of bravado, walking into the gravity of what's next. Tomorrow promises more revelations, but tonight, the record has already shifted. The judge's statement echoes through the courtroom. As he rises, signaling an unspoken shift in the trial's momentum, Diddy, composed yet visibly burdened, slides into place. His lead attorney clears their throat, tapping the notes again in attempt at reclaiming momentum that now feels tenuous. Outside the courtroom, the atmosphere simmers. Press congregates behind barricades, exchanging briefings and murmurs. As spectators filter out, the gravity of the recorded torpedo, the contract from Dubai, and the surveillance footage mounts, each piece now etched into the court's official record. The narrative has fractured. Diddy's once unassailable image, now visibly chipped. Back in chambers, the prosecution's team convenes, poring over seized files with laser focus. Their muted discussion, underscored by the clatter of keyboards copying metadata logs and organizing correspondence threads. They know tomorrow's momentum depends on precision. On the defense side, strategy sessions flicker in whispered voice to isolate blame, reframe the contract as unrelated to the case, and cast doubt on voice forensic reliability. Each theory seems increasingly fragile. Corridors buzz with anticipation. Word spreads. Forensic teams will begin cross-validating device fingerprints to assign authorship. Digital forensic specialists, courtroom ready, are being briefed. The ripple effect is palpable. Diddy steps out into the evening sunlight, flanked by a skeleton legal team. Silence surrounds him, a quiet more menacing than any gavel strike. Photo flashes shatter the hush as reporters await his reaction. He pauses, expression neutral, then proceeds, shoulders steady, though his eyes betray the reality. The trial is no longer about defenses led. It's about survival within the courtroom's shifting currents. Tomorrow's hearings will determine not just what he defended, but how much control he still holds in a courtroom, now defining him more than he defines his case. The courtroom lights dim as the judge's gavel signals the end of recess. A hush descends. The defense's remaining counsel shuffle forward, papers trembling in their hands. The judge addresses them, voice low but firm. The court will now entertain motions regarding the admissibility of Exhibit B, the Dubai contract. Proceed. A bead of sweat glistens on one of the attorney's brows, all eyes on him. He rises, swallows, and begins his argument. He contends the contract is hearsay, not probative, and was obtained improperly. Yet across the aisle, the prosecutor smiles, leans forward, and counters confidently. They argue metadata proves its origin from Combs' device. The judge's expression, inscrutable. Siblings on the edge of anticipation in that moment, the courtroom becomes less a venue for justice, and more an intricate chessboard. Beyond those walls, in the hallway lined with reporters and law clerks, whispered speculation grows louder. If the judge denies the motion, one clerk murmurs, this could steer the whole case. Inside, the defense closes its plea. The prosecutor presents audio spectrograms pinpointing voice analysis that matches Diddy's law firm's server logs. Every click of the mouse amplifies tension. The gallery shifts uncomfortably in their seats, the air thick with calculated recalibration of power every syllable. Glance, and checkbox unfolding new fault lines in the facade Combs once wore. Like armor. As the hearing wraps up for the day, the judge announces, I will rule on these motions tomorrow morning. Court is adjourned. The defenders exhale deeply. Some slump, others stare blankly. Meanwhile, prosecution team members exchange curt nods. They sense momentum but await closure. Combs himself exits nearly last silent, measuredly, behind a courtroom suspended between evidence and expectation, each side poised for the expected yet unknown pivot that tomorrow brings. The courtroom reconvenes the next morning under a palpable tension. The defense table, notably more rigid, the judge settles in and without preamble states, I have reviewed the parties' submissions regarding Exhibit B and objections thereto. The motion to exclude is denied. The courtroom collectively exhales. Combs's lead counsel slumps, while the prosecution's team straightens, a measured satisfaction in their posture. The judge continues. The contract and associated metadata, including electronic signatures, are admitted into evidence. The jury will be instructed accordingly. A murmur ripples through the room. With that, the prosecutor steps up, cueing their presentation. On screen, the Dubai contract reappears, now annotated with timestamps, email headers, and file origin logs. Each detail is dissected, each line connecting back to Combs' circle. The defense leans forward, but their notes feel less sure, scattered. Pages askew. Then comes the prosecutor's closing line. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been shown that this contract was not speculation, it was executed. The question now is not if, but how deeply it impacts Mr. Combs' narrative. This is not just evidence, it is truth laid bare. Silence follows. No applause, no gasps, just the rustle of paper and the hum of intensity, as the courtroom braces for the next turn in a trial increasingly defined by the cracks within. The courtroom resumed with palpable tension. Counsel exchanged brief nods. The atmosphere felt sharpened. The judge's voice broke the silence. We now turn to Exhibit C. A screen flickered, surveillance footage from one of Mr. Combs' properties. In it, a legal team member enters a secure room and hands a USB drive to an unidentified associate 2 days before the leak became public. Whispered steps, no labels, no announcements. Then the door seals, the exchange complete. The prosecution paused the clip. This is beyond circumstantial, the prosecutor pressed. It's direct, premeditated, and internal. Eyes tracked Combs, who himself remained motionless. Jaw clenched. The judge interjected. This suggests intentional handling of evidence. Defense, respond. Combs' lead attorney rose, voice controlled but tense. Your Honor, this single instance does not prove intent by Mr. Combs. It shows a defense team member transferring data but does not connect back to the defendant. We request a hearing on chain of custody and agent identification before any inference on intent. The judge leaned forward. Chain of custody issues will be addressed. However, jury must consider this footage at face value until further ruling. Proceed. A quiet click as the clip resumed. The courtroom held its collective breath. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence. Every eye was fixed on the screen as the clip resumed, the shuffle of feet and measured footsteps echoing in the hushed chamber. The exchange ended. No words spoken, but the gravity was unmistakable. The prosecutor stood and turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen what this is. It's not a misunderstanding, not a slip. It's calculated, secure, 2 days before the leak. This isn't about intent, it's about action. He clicked again. This time, metadata overlays appeared, file path timestamps, device IDs. Evidence that the drive had been locked in a secure, legal folder on the firm's server. That folder was accessible only by Mr. Combs' counsel. Combs' attorney rose again, adjusting his tie. Urgency creeping into his tone. Your Honor, metadata is not conclusive. We can test its authenticity. We need expert analysis hash verification, server logs to confirm no tampering, no misattribution. The judge nodded, steepling his fingers, weighing the moment. Very well. I will allow a brief recess for the defense to submit motions on authentication, at which point the court will consider expert testimony. But jury, you will be allowed to view the remaining clips. They are part of the evidentiary record. This is your reality today. Another nod, and the courtroom hushed. Combs leaned forward slightly, shoulders tensed. His lead attorney placed a reassuring hand on the table. The room's energy felt different, now measured, inevitable. The narrative had shifted. What was once defense strategy had morphed into evidence-driven reckoning, moving swiftly to truths that could no longer be masked. The court clerk returned and slid forward a binder of expert affidavits. The judge opened it, eyes scanning its contents. He looked up. Counsel, he said, voice calm, yet firm. This court will accept a sworn statement from a qualified forensic log analyst to establish the drive's lineage. If you wish to challenge authenticity, file it by end of day. Combs's lead attorney dipped his head, the tension in his jaw visible. He opened his own binder, shuffled pages. Your Honor, we submit an analysis from Dr. Evelyn Ross verifying metadata, integrity, MD5, hashes matching defense logs. We request the court authorize a live hearing for cross-examination. The judge let it sit. Submit it. I'll rule on admissibility. But jury, we'll proceed with your review of the remaining evidence tomorrow morning, authentication pending. Combs exhaled, stiffening in his seat. The prosecution, unmoved, simply nodded and collected their exhibits. The gallery murmured, softly anticipation, relief, dread echoes of a battle, suspended but not sealed. Outside, U.S. Marshals guided a silent Combs from the courtroom. His stride was steady, determined eyes forward. But the binders, metadata checks, expert affidavits, they were already reshaping the battlefield. Silence, after all, no longer protected him. It only deferred the reckoning to come.